Talvin Wilks, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about locomotion at the Children's Theater Company, where you have directed that play. Do you want to give the audience a little overview of the play? Because I was telling you that I think it's a love story, but it's not marketed as a love story. So.
Well, I don't want to steal your thunder. That was brilliant. So I'm going to let you frame that. For me, the play is based on a young novel by Jasmine, a youth novel that she adapted to the stage called Locomotion. And it's about the life of a young African-American boy, age 11, who finds himself battling the foster care system in his efforts to keep a sense of family together in relationship to his sister. He and his sister, unfortunately, lose their parents in a fire that takes, I'm not giving too much away. It's there right from the beginning. And then, it's really very interesting. We discover Lonnie at age 11. The events took place at age 8. So he travels back and forth in time and memory as he's trying to understand keeping a sense of family together and his responsibility, and then just navigating childhood.
Yeah, and school, because a great deal of the play takes place at school. So Absolutely. You have one actress in the play, or I could say actor using the universal term, that plays 3 different characters.
Yes.
How was that? I mean, what kind of guidance did you give her?
Well, that's how it was adapted. I mean, originally the stage adaptation calls for only 3 actors. So there's one actor who plays Lonnie, and then the other 2 actors play adults and youth. So for me, it was very important that the young relationships were peer-to-peer, because I felt that was very important as you're trying to tell a story of a young individual sort of learning accountability and maturity. You want that to be in relationship to, I feel, other youth. So I reached out to Jacqueline Woodson and asked her if she wouldn't mind if I would cast 2 young actors to play the other youth roles. And she agreed. She goes, "Oh, that's fabulous. I would love to see that." So that meant that one lead actor had to play 3 adult roles, the mother, the teacher, and the foster care mother. And, it was really a fascinating process, because you really want to be able to distinguish the character's age, navigate that. We landed on this concept of having Miss Edna be Jamaican, because she talks about peas and rice, and she's singing Bob Marley, and that just sort of, and also Jacqueline has based the story in Brooklyn, and so all of the cultural communities there. So that was a sort of a first approach to distinguish dialect and tone. And it's also written in the text, the distinction of the 3 women as Charlotte Marie plays them comes through on the page as well. But it really is through her efforts in discovering how to distinguish each of those characters. And as you can see, she's changing character within seconds.
I mean, yes. Yeah, and I was going to say whoever was the costume designer did a great job, because the wig change are really quick. And so that helps with, you're like, okay, Absolutely. The gray, the straight hair, the wrap. And so you're like, okay, when she's wearing the wrap, she's, here comes mommy. Mommy is out. So
right, that's Danielle Preston, the designer, but also an incredible team at Children's Theater. There are wardrobe folks back there helping those costume changes, and they map it out, and they figure out where the change needs to happen and how to, best do it within seconds. So it's a full team effort. You don't get to see that.
Yeah. Okay. You just said a buzzword that the Children's Theater Company team is out there mapping everything out. But as a director, can you take us a little behind the scenes before the play gets to the stage in your process of mapping it out? And then another thing that I really enjoyed about the play was the incorporation of audio visuals. So how did you decide to incorporate those audio visuals?
Well, as most people don't know this or consider this, but most of our designs are completed before first rehearsal. So, the design team that you bring together, I use the term dramaturgs, so they do the research and they sort of map it out. They have to, in collaboration with me, envision the world based on the text itself and based on ideas of interpretation. So it was very important for me. I mean, the play is open-ended. They give you location and time and place, but they don't necessarily tell you how to depict that or how you get from scene to scene. You, as a director and your design team, you have to figure out the style and the aesthetics and how you want to approach that. So for me, because the scenes happen so quickly and they're so magical and they move back and forth in time, and a lot of them are memories, I wanted to create something that was a little bit fanciful and magical. And I also wanted to create a world that privileged this idea of a young Black boy writing poetry, because as the story is really told through this act of him trying to describe his world and understand his situation through poems as he's mentored by his wonderful teacher. And so we came up with this idea, the set designer Marudy Evans and I came up with this idea that we would place the world inside of a composition book, because he was always writing poems and describing the world. And I just wanted to use that as a conceptual backdrop and then allow all of the scenes to magically appear from there. So then I was relying on my projection designer, Kathy Maxwell, to think about how we could represent these different worlds: a walk in the park, a kitchen scene, a bedroom scene, a Brooklyn brownstone, a rooftop, a starry sky. And so Kathy Maxwell really envisioned this through the lens of an 11-year-old. So there are some, graphic ideas, but most of them are as we would imagine Lonnie drawing them or depicting them. And then both used, we used some of the early images from Jean-Michel Basquiat's notebooks, because he has a collection of composition books from high school that show his early works and how he was developing his tagging, graffiti style. And, so we came upon one of these composition books by Basquiat, and we thought, that's the idea.
That's a gem.
That, isn't it? It was beautiful because it gave us the sense of urban environment. It gave us a sense of, a Black artist, right? Young Black artist, sort of that youthfulness and a little—
In New York.
Exactly. In New York, exactly. So all of that, we, both Marudy and Kathy Maxwell utilized that as a way to depict the world and to tell the story.
Well, wow, you guys did a wonderful job. So I never knew that the set is already complete. Planned out and everything before rehearsals. I thought things might have been tweaked. So what is the actual timeline? You get the invitation to direct a play. You actually had to call the author. So how long have you been working on this project?
I got the invitation, I guess it was about a year ago. I was directing a play at the History Theater by Harrison David Rivers, Parks, about the young life of Gordon Parks. And Peter Brocious had been trying to get me— this was my directing debut at the Children's Theater. I hadn't directed that before.
You knocked it out the park.
Well,
and I was like, you broke the bat. Because I say break the bat,
Exactly. I love it. So, Peter and I had been having conversations for a while, trying to find the right project. And this one came along, and it's such a beautiful, lovely text. And, I'm a big fan of Jacqueline Woodson. So I definitely said yes. Before I really figured out, wow, this is actually very challenging. This is not an easy play to translate for the stage and also think about young audiences. So, I immediately proposed a group of designers, and I would say probably about 6 to 7 months before first rehearsal, Maruti Evans and I were clearly involved in coming up with the concept. And then everyone has a series of deadlines. The set is the first major deadline because they're already planning the build, and it takes a lot of time to build out that construction and develop that. And then other things, directly relate to that. The lighting designer, Marcus Dilliard, responds to that environment and also thinks about sort of lights, costumes, projections, and then a beautiful sound design with two brilliant composer designers, Queen Drea, focusing on composition, and Peter Morrow really doing soundscape and sound effects.
That's all original for this
all
production.
original. Oh
my goodness. I mean,
except for the one locomotion track that we use.
Right, except for locomotion, of course.
Everything else is, built from, Minneapolis brilliant artists, designers, except for the set designer, Maruti Evans, and is from New York, and Daniel Preston's from DC.
Wow, I mean, but this is just a treat. I mean, I had no idea that, there's all this amazing talent. I mean, we know that we have a amazing theater scene, but just the talent behind the stage, what would we say, not on stage, it's just magnificent.
Yeah,
I mean, it's great.
These are artists that I've worked with quite frequently. They've done a number of shows from the History Theater and Penumbra. So I consider them my long-term friends and long-term collaborators.
Wow. So, okay, I know the director doesn't direct the play every single night. You're done. Like, will you see the play again, or will you come for closing night?
I'm currently in Detroit putting up another show called The Peculiar Patriot at the Detroit Public Theater. So just a few days after opening, I flew here. And so I've been here for a couple of weeks. So I return to Minneapolis next week, and I will be going to check in on the show and seeing, I get production reports about what's going on, and they're doing very well, and young audiences are enjoying it. So that's, all very good. So I will check in when I return next week, and I'll definitely see, sort of the final week of performances.
Yeah, I would say I hope not only just young audiences, but families, adults. I know I was crying. My friend that went with me was crying. I saw Rohan Preston at another play over the weekend, and we discussed your play, and he said he was crying at the end. I know you described it as the story of a young man's love and healing. I'm going to say healing and evolution and finding himself through poetry. I told you that I really thought it was a love story because there was so much love all around, family love, self-love, a mother's love, a teacher's love, the love, agape love between friends. So, I mean, it's a great love story, in my opinion.
It's a great love. There's that wonderful moment, and actually this was, we asked the playwright, and this was addition from Junie, who plays Lonnie, and he lists everyone that he considers family at the end of the play. And initially in the adaptation, Enrique is not listed. It's the mother, father, and the sister, because he's thinking about family. But Lonnie said, wow, it's because I've already acknowledged that Enrique is my new family. It seems that his omission is unfulfilled, and I would like to include his name in the listing of family at the end of the play. And and Jacqueline Woodson agreed, and so we put that into that. That really just showed, as you're saying, that love between friends and that sense of family that they build is so important in this story.
Well, I hope Jacqueline Woodson is as delighted as I am, and as audiences are, at the way that you and this amazing and talented cast have brought her words to life on stage. I'm not sure if she's seen it yet, but
she's coming. We believe she's coming at closing. She's coming at the end.
Well, I want to just say bravo to you and the cast. I know Corduroy is coming up at the Children's Theater Company, but what's next for you? You're in Detroit. What are you doing on the local stage now?
I'm in Detroit. I head back. I'm actually working as the dramaturg on one of the next shows at the Children's Theater, their adaptation of An American Tale.
So for those that might not be familiar, what is a dramaturg?
A dramaturg, oh, very good, exactly. Well, that's why I said earlier, my designers are my first dramaturgs. You know, dramaturgy as a practice is a role that's inside of the theater that supports and essentially supports the text, supports the playwright and supports the director in guiding interpretation, research, context, the integrity of the story. And it's a very specific role. It also provides research for the cast, and really keeping the theoretical concepts of the play in check, and also the conceptual ideas, and really serving as a sounding board for that collaborative team in their collaborative process. So it's a role that, you know, has been established in sort of the European model of theater and had become very popular inside of the American, you know, theater, sort of, I would say, in the, you know, Brecht always would say that the most important person in the room was the dramaturg. So there's a whole school of dramaturgy that is established inside of, you know, the practice of Bertolt Brecht. So it's always there. And eventually you can get, you know, an MFA in dramaturgy and study, and it's connected to many aspects of his history, historiography, theory, and practice. So it has a, you know, it has an academic place, and it also has a practice place inside of a production.
Well, I love your passion for the arts. You know, I'm Jasmine. My business and brand is Carpe Diem with Jasmine. Before I let you go, Talvin, how do you carpe diem, and more importantly, how do you seize the day?
I love it. Well, I start with a wonderful cup of coffee. You know, that's the practical sense. But I'll tell you, Jasmine, art practice and art engagement is very much the way that I seize the day each day. And so I'm also a professor at the U at Twin Cities in the theater department there. So, and I teach dramaturgy as well. So very much the notion of the process and practice of making is pretty much how I begin each day.
Okay, so we want people to run and see Locomotion at the Children's Theater Company. The program said it's recommended for children 11 and above, correct?
Well, they've been saying 9 and above. I think 11 and above is probably more appropriate, but I don't want to say that. You know, they say 9 and above. I think very mature individuals can appreciate the work. There's serious subject matter, but there's also delightful playfulness and discovery, and as you said, family love that, you know, it's also very important.
Oh yeah, you're definitely going to have some conversations after this play if you take some young ones with you. Thank you so much for your time. And the play closes
March 5th. So there's plenty of time to check it out.
Yes, make sure you check it out. Thanks so much.